all the technical issues. Good afternoon. My name is Keanu. I'm the Assistant Coordinator of the Public Access Room. Thank you for joining me today. Today, we're going to be talking about the legislative process and how you can use your voice to participate in the process. This presentation is called Your Voice. This is the one that we do most, and it's our oldest presentation. And so thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions while I go through the slides, you just write them down, and at the end of the presentation, we will have time for questions. So for today's agenda, we're going to teach you how to find your legislators and why that's important, and how you can use your voice during session, how you can search for bills and sign up for hearing notifications. We'll go through the legislative process, how you can provide testimony through the process. And then at the very end of the presentation, we're going to talk about the public access room and how we help the public get involved. So this is our office at the Capitol. It's located in room 401. Many of you have already visited us. Right now, we're open from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And then starting January 21st, which is the first day of session, we will be open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So for those of you who have not visited us, please visit us. We're always happy to see you. You can pick up a lot of our informational material at our office. If not, you can visit our website. We'll have the website address at the end of our presentation, and you can go there to download copies of our informational sheets. Just talking about government in general, as you know, our government is set up with three separate but equal branches of government that are supposed to keep each other in check. Basically speaking, the legislative branch makes the laws, the executive branch implements those laws, and the judicial branch interprets the laws. So for this presentation, we're just going to talk about the legislative branch, the branch that's responsible for making the laws in the state of Hawaii. Our state's what's considered a bicameral. Our state's legislature is what's considered a bicameral legislature, and that means that there's two chambers. All states are set up like this. The only state that's different is Nebraska. They're unicameral. They have just one chamber. And we're modeled after the way the federal government is set up. Our state Senate is comprised of 25 senators serving 4-year terms. Our state House is made up of 25 representatives 51 representatives serving 2-year terms. And representatives and senators are both referred to as legislators, and they serve the same function, making laws during our legislative session, which runs from January through the end of April or early May, depending on the legislative calendar. They're a little bit different. Some of the differences is that the state senators can introduce as many bills as they want to at the beginning of session, whereas representatives are usually limited by House leadership to maybe 20 bills per members. Chairs of committees can introduce more bills, provided that those bills that they introduce fall under the purview of the committees that they chair. The state senators also have the advise and consent power to approve the governor's appointments to the heads of his agencies, some boards and commissions, and also some judicial appointments. And representatives have the power of impeachment. Senate districts are bigger, so they comprise about 2 House districts, and that's approximately, for Senate districts, maybe 60,000 people, and representative districts, maybe about 30,000 people. So what do these lawmakers do? Well, because we're a representative democracy, they serve as the voting district's voice here at the Capitol, representing their district here at the Capitol. They can also serve their constituents on issues that the state has some type of jurisdiction over. In order to make the legislative process a little bit simpler. The House and Senate organize themselves into committees that focus on particular areas of legislative policy. Each committee has a chair and vice chairs and members, and they are appointed by leadership. So leadership in the Senate is the Senate president, the vice president, the majority leader, floor leaders, policy leaders, and also in the House Speaker, Vice Speaker, Majority Leader, uh, policy leaders, that kinds of things. Andy? Okay, sorry, it looked like we got
Yeah,
logged out.
I think it's still working okay.
Okay, I just got a message that we got logged out, so I just wanted to make sure. Okay, one of the first things people want to find out is who represents you directly. And that's important because as earlier I talked about us being a representative democracy. And so you want to communicate with your legislator. If you're working with the website, you've noticed that the first page looks a little bit different on the upper right corner. But we can look at our legislators kind of the similar way that we did before by clicking on the legislator tab on the left side of the home page, and then using the drop-down menu to click on the Find Your Legislator tab. But the next part is going to look a little bit different. So you're going to type your address into the search box, and they may pre-populate. Your address may pre-populate. I'm just going to click on Enter or Go, and you'll see the listing for your House district or Senate district. And if you've used this search before, you're not going to be able to see the district lines, but you can click on your House district or Senate district to view your legislators. And here we see our legislators that would represent the area that the state capitol is located in. Representative Kim Coco Iyomoto and Senator Carl Rhodes. And we would like to take a look at their profiles to learn a little bit more about them if we knew nothing about them. So in this case, I'm going to click on Senator Carl Rhodes' name, and it will take us to his webpage. And this is kind of what it looks like. You'll see his district information listed there in the areas that he covers, his room number in case you want to visit him at his office here at the Capitol, his contact number, his email address, the committees that he serves on, the bills that he introduced last year, and as he introduces bills this year, you see that populate, and some biographical information. So this is a good place to go to find out about your own legislator or legislators that are on committees, chairs of committees. This is a good place to go for that. And if you wanted to see what they spend their money on, you'll see their allowance reports here, and some of them archive their um, community newsletters here as well. Before we go on further, I just wanted to remind everybody that the most important people in government are people like you. Because if government was shaped in a pyramid, the people are at the very top. But that only matters if you get involved. So please get involved. The public access room was set up to help the people and make the whole legislative process, a little bit simpler. So please use us as a resource. So these are the things that you can do to get involved. As regular citizens of the state, you could vote for your state senator. Again, they're elected to 4-year terms. So every 4 years, you'll be voting for your state senator. You'll be voting for your state representative every 2 years. You could vote on proposed amendments to the state constitution. And constitutional amendments are introduced in bill form. And then if they pass the legislature, they'll be put on the ballot, and then we'll be voting to ratify those questions. Then, if they pass, they'll end up in the Constitution. You can run for office or help somebody else to do so. The only qualifications for running for office in the state of Hawaii is to be 18 years of age or older. You have to live in the district that you want to represent, and have been a Hawaii resident for at least 3 years. You can communicate directly with your legislators, offer testimony for bills that you care about, and then joining with others to amplify your voices. And so we talked about voting as one way that which you could use your voice, talking with legislators, letting them know what your priorities are, what you see, what you want to see them do during the legislative session. If there's community issues that you want them to address, you can let them know about that. If you don't have anything to talk to them about, you don't know what you want them to focus on, you can ask them what you'd like them, what you think that they would want to focus on. Ask them what their priorities are. Um, you can suggest a bill to be drafted. Right now, they're kind of busy with bill drafts. The drafting agencies are busy. Usually, the best time to ask for a bill draft is in the summer months or the fall. There's still time, but the drafting agencies are busy. Legislators may already, be up to their limits in what they, in the bills that they want to draft. But you can suggest the bill to be drafted. You can ask for hearings for bills that you care about. And when those bills are introduced and you can and schedule for a hearing, you can testify, and then you can contact the governor after the bills that have passed up to him that you care about. You can contact the governor to either ask him to sign it, or if you see bills that you don't like, you can ask him not to sign it. So these are the ways that which you can use your voice. So communicating with legislators, again, it's always a good thing to do because we're a representative democracy, so you'd want to get involved. You can communicate by letter. This is kind of an old way of communicating. Nobody really writes letters anymore. I mean, it's really not not a good way to communicate just because of the time, especially during session. But for people that like to write letters, make sure just a couple tips. Make sure that you write legibly. Um, if it's a pressing issue, you want to make sure that you get the letter out quickly and write your return address so they could get back to you that way. If you write a letter, there's at least there's a trace, that you've sent something. You could write an email. That's the best way usually to communicate with legislators, just because it's convenient for you to communicate that way. It's convenient for a legislator or their staff to read it. My only tip for you if you're communicating via email is to in the subject line, let the legislator know that you're a constituent by saying, I live in your district or I'm a constituent, because they'll prioritize your email. You're a vote and they realize that. So they want to make sure that they respond to your email. You can make a phone call. Usually you'll be talking to staff member, but let them know why you're calling, and make sure you fill as much detail into your call as necessary. If you want to talk to the legislator, you can make the ask. Can I please speak to senator, or can I please speak to representative? You can make the ask. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to speak to them, especially during session when they're busy, but you can make that, request to speak to them. Or you can visit them in person. Usually in session, they're here, right? But if you want to meet with them in person during session, I would call their office and ask them to schedule a courtesy request. So those are the different ways in which you can communicate with them. And the public access room can help. We have a lot of experience um, in being helpful in helping advocates be successful. So reach out to us. Okay, this is what our year looks like at the legislature. The left side is the time between sessions when we're, in the interim period. This is a really good time to communicate with legislators just because legislators are more open. They're not as busy. These are the time to share ideas with legislators, talk to their staff members. You can identify issues. Um, allies and collaborate with them. The right side is the time when session we have session. And those colored wedges on the right are the time between deadlines. We put that in just to illustrate how quickly things move during session. And then we get into the end of session on the bottom right portion, and then the governor's enactment time for his bills. So session starts on January 21st, and I believe it ends on May 8th. It seems like a long time, but things move very quickly. So we will have a presentation on the legislative calendar next week. And so we'll be able to help you guys understand just how fast things move and be able to help you guys out with the calendar, which gets me to this portion. Yeah, so things move very quickly. The first deadline comes February 11th. That's the triple referral filing deadline. It's mostly a House deadline. The Senate has this on their calendar as well. This is a deadline for any bill that has three or more referrals. And by this point, the bill has to have moved out of um, that first committee with the committee report filed. Although the Senate has this as a deadline, they've been referring bills to three committees more recently, but this is mostly a House deadline. So I'll be doing a presentation on the session calendar next week to explain the deadlines. But be very aware of the calendar because bills live and die by the deadlines that are listed within the session calendar. Okay, we talked about bill drafts. You want to make sure that you get to legislators before the start of session. Legislators get the bill ideas from constituents, from lobbyists, from interest groups, but they want to hear from the public because they represent the public. To find a legislator, you want to start with your own legislator because, again, they represent you. You can talk to your own legislator, but also you can talk to chairs of relevant committees or members who have supported similar issues in the past. So if I wanted the state to create more bicycle lanes, sometimes I ride bike to work. I could talk to my own legislator that represents my district. I could talk to the chairs of the transportation committee in the House or Senate. But I could also talk to the person that a legislator that may also ride their bike to work. So this is kind of how it works. You're not limited to one or the other. You might want to talk to the person that would give the bill the best chance to move forward and the person that would best support your idea. So you can summarize the opportunity or the problem. You could bullet point your idea, create a short summary. If there's laws in other states that you could use, you could just take that law, provide the legislator with as much information as you can. There's drafting agencies at the Capitol that will take that idea and draft it into law. So you just have to let them know what you're trying to accomplish and have them understand what it is you're trying to do. You don't have to write, for the most part, write the bill yourself. They have people here at the Capitol that will do that for you or for the legislator. They just have to understand what it is you're trying to accomplish. So, but hopefully you would want to do that before the end of the year because once we get into this point where we are now, drafting agencies are very busy trying to get the bills out to the legislators because the bill introduction cutoff is coming pretty quickly. We did create this kind of cheat sheet on how to talk to legislators. This is available at our office and I believe on our website. Just how to talk to legislators about, introducing a new bill or asking for support of some issue. And so we just bullet point, how you should lay out your proposal. Okay, now we get into the legislative part of the session and all the things that have to happen for a bill to become law. It has to be introduced by a legislator in the very beginning of session. It has to pass through every committee that the bill gets referred to in the House and Senate. And bills are referred to committee based on what the bill is trying to do. As we talked about a little bit earlier, there's subject matter committees that cover areas of legislative policy. Leadership will get the bill after it goes through first reading. They have staff members that read through the bill and they make recommendations on which committees should go through. The first committees that it will go through is what we call the subject matter committees, the committees that have the most responsibility for it, the most jurisdiction over it. And then other committees that would have some type of attachment to it, and they'll refer to those committees in an order. So it has to pass every committee that it gets referred to. Starts off as in its chamber of origin. So every committee that get referred to in the House and Senate, it has to pass three votes in both the House and Senate chambers where all the members convene. And the very first vote happens after it gets introduced. For bills that make the first two requirements, the House and Senate have to agree on the exact wording. They can't send two different versions of a bill up to the governor, so the House and Senate have to agree on the exact wording of a bill before it gets out of the legislature. And then for bills that make the three, above three requirements, the bill will go up to the governor, and then the governor has to either sign the bill into law or not veto it. Um, or for bills that are vetoed, the legislature would have to successfully override his veto by two-thirds vote. So these are all the things that have to happen for a bill to become law in our state. We created a diagram here because people like to look at things visually. So the left side is bills introduced in the House. The right side is bills introduced in the Senate. They go through the process. They cross over. The bottom portion is where the House and Senate are trying to come to an agreement between bills that have both a House and Senate draft, and then they're off to the governor. So that's kind of what it looks like. Although the committee hearings will be different. Some bills, go through more than two committee hearings, but in a nutshell, that's kind of how it looks like. And has to do all of these things by all these deadlines that are listed in the calendar, and that's what I'll talk about next week in the other PowerPoint presentation. Okay, we get to the bill introduction part. They're introduced at the very beginning of session, and session starts on the 21st. I think I don't have the calendar in front of me, but it's usually a 1 week from the bill introduction, from the opening day of session. The second year of session, the back end, they usually allow legislators to pre-file bills. I think the pre-file date, I'm not sure. We'll check on that at the end of session. I mean, at the end of this presentation. But they're allowed to introduce bills like about a week before opening day. So I think that might be the 14th. I think legislators are going to start introducing bills on the 14th, and you'll start to see them be uploaded to the legislature's website starting the 14th. And they'll just be listed as pre-filed on the website on their bill status pages. So we should start seeing bills be uploaded by on the 14th. That doesn't mean that there will be bills, but I believe the 14th is the day that they can start allowing legislators to pre-file bills. When bills are introduced, you'll see this is kind of what it looks like. You see an SB or an HB. SB is a Senate bill and HB is a House bill. Then you see the bill number. Um, Bills will have titles that are pretty broad. This bill is relating to the general excise tax. And bills are broad just because when the legislature makes any changes to a bill, whatever is in the body of the bill has to fit that title. In order to give themselves a little bit more wiggle room, they make the titles broad. Um, and so that's why you'll see really broad titles relating to education, relating to transportation, relating to water. That gives themselves a lot more room to work on the bill. Then you'll see, usually in section one, what we call a purpose clause or a preamble. These are just narratives or summaries on why the bill is necessary. They provide some historical context on the bill. Many bills have this, but not all. And then you get into the section two or three where they're putting language into the HRS, which is our codified law or taking language out, or adding sections in, taking sections out. And then at the very end, you'll see where the bill is becoming effective. So this is kind of what it looks like. Okay, to search for bills, again, you can start looking around maybe the 14th. You also be aware that 2026 session is a carryover year. So there'll still be a lot of bills that will become alive again, beginning on opening day, January 21st. And so all the bills that didn't make it last year, which is the majority of bills, those bills will become alive again wherever they left off last year. And the only deadline that they have to make is the deadline that they missed last year. And so if you're keeping track of bills last year, you want to make sure that you still keep track of them this year. They don't move a whole lot of carryover bills, but they could. And so you want to make sure that you're aware of them. But how we keep track of bills at the public access room is we use the laws and research subject heading. And you can just pull that on the front page of the website in the banner, and then click on the reports and list tab. On the left side, and these are for bills where you don't know what the bill number is and you're just looking for a subject. You're going to click on the reports and list tab and then use the subject search on the left side. And then you're just going to type something in. So in this example, we're looking for bills related to public schools. We're just going to type that in. So public school, click on go, and then there's 64 records returned. So you can look for anything. We might get some departmental communications like you see in the upper, on the top of the page. You can just don't really need to pay attention to that. We're just looking for bills. And if you wanted to find them in this, find maybe specific things related to public schools, in this case, public school meals, you can use a Control F, which will bring up a search box within the report, and use a sub search by typing something else in. Like we did Control F and I typed in meals within this report, and it highlighted where in this report about schools where meals were listed. And so you can look for a subset of words or phrases within this big report to kind of narrow the search down. So this is a pretty good way of finding bills. So you can do that when the bills start populating, like I said, beginning January 14th. Okay, you're going to want to sign up for an account if you have none. And this is so you can use all of the interactive features, which includes submitting testimony, signing up for hearing notifications. If you have not, now's a good time to sign up for an account. You're going to click on the register tab. The website's address is capital.hawaii.gov. It's going to look a little bit different just because I screenshotted this with the old search box on the right. But click on the register tab, and then you're just gonna there's gonna be a form fill. You're just gonna fill out the form, fill your name, your email address. You're gonna create a password. It's gonna send a link to your email account. You're gonna click on the link, verifying that you want to sign up for an account on the website. Then you're gonna use your email and the password that you created to log into your account. And then once you log into your account, you'll be able to use the interactive features. And so once bills are starting to populate on the website and you find them, we looked earlier to find legislation, and you identify the bill number. You're going to want to sign up for hearing notices so you can testify once those bills have been scheduled for a hearing. And so once you sign in, you're going to be able to use um, the tabs on the top, the submitting testimony, hearing notification, measure tracking. And so for this hearing notification tab, you can subscribe by measure or by committee. If you subscribe by committee, you'll get the hearing notices um, you'll get hearing notices for the committees that you subscribe to, and you'll get all the hearing notices. If you just want to get hearing notices for only the bills that you subscribe to, you're just going to type the bill number into the search into the box under subscribe by measure, click on add, and anytime those bills are scheduled for a hearing, you'll get a hearing notice in your email. Make sure that before you leave this page, you click on save and exit. And so if you're subscribing by committee, you'll get all the hearing notices, and then you can check and uncheck. So if you're getting too many hearing notices for committees and you decide later on you don't want to get them, you can just uncheck the boxes. So this is what the hearing notices will look like when you get them in your email, and it'll list all the bills, and then you'll send the link in PDF form um, for the hearing notice. So to create measure tracking lists, if you are tracking lots of measures, I would create a measure tracking list just so you can look at all the bills you are keeping track of in one place. So you'll have to create a list first. And so you click on the measure tracking tab. You'll have to first create your list on the top, and you're just going to name it something. You can name it whatever you want to. So, create the list. After you create your list, you're going to want to show your list where it says on the bottom, show list. You're going to show your list, and then you'll start to add the bills that you want to add. And you can add it all one time, separating them by a comma. Once you add your list, you're going to generate your report. You can even add notes to your list. And then you're going to generate your report. Your report's going to look like this. And what I do is I keep track of bills for LRB, and every day during session, I send this report to some other people in LRB because we have to submit testimony for our bills. And so this is kind of what it looks like. And so these populate. I don't have to. I just have to go into this list and check it and send it out. Like as the status changes, the status will change automatically. So I just have to go into the my tracking list, um, and take a look at it and send it out. So I don't have to do anything with the status. It updates on its own. So this is a good thing to have if you're keeping track of legislation for lots of people. If you're part of a department or an advocacy group or nonprofit or whatever it is, this is a good place to go to keep track of all your measures. You can see it all in one place. And so this is a really good thing to have, a really good tool to use to keep track of all your bills. And if you guys need help with this, please call us. I use this all the time, so I can help you with this. Okay. After a bill is introduced, it goes to first reading. This is the first requirement of all the bills, goes through first reading on the floor of each chamber. You'll find out which committee the bill needs to go through. It goes if your goes your bill will go it goes it gets referred to committee, and then the chair gets to decide which bill gets heard. Very little time for the bill to get heard. So you go to the person with the most power, that's the chair of the committee. If it doesn't get heard, it will miss a deadline and die in committee. This is the fate of most bills. If your bill does get scheduled for a public hearing, you're going to want to testify. Who testifies? A lot of people, interest groups, lobbyists, the public, executive departments. So the hearing notice will be sent out like this, and this is what it looks like. The date, time, location of the hearing, all the bills that are being heard, and then the instructions on the very bottom of the hearing notice. There's no rules or what testimony should look or sound like. That's really up to you. That said, it's always important to write the bill number, your name, whether you're for or against, and why you're taking that stance. So you're just going to click on the Submit Testimony tab. You're going to type the bill number in. The form will come out. You'll see it in green. Then you're just going to fill the form out. And you're just going to note whether you're testifying as an individual or on behalf of an organization. If you're testifying remotely via Zoom or in person, or just submitting written testimony. Um, you're going to submit your choosing your file or typing your testimony in, and then you can submit your testimony. If your testimony was submitted successfully, you'll see it in green. If you have not submitted your testimony successfully, it's going to show up in red. So if you guys have problems with the testimony, please let us know and we'll assist you. If you're testimony via testifying via Zoom or in person, you want to identify the chair and the vice chair. You want to make sure to keep your testimony short and simple, introduce yourself and state your position. And just remember why you're there. You want to make sure to get your point across. Okay, after all the testimony has been heard, the committee may do a couple of things. They could vote to pass the bill out without any changes. They could vote to pass the bill out with changes, and changes could be small or substantive. They could not vote. They could defer the bill, just not taking a vote at that time, or they could hold the bill, meaning that they're not taking any further action on it. If changes have occurred, they could be minor or significant, as we talked about. Two common changes that happen is that they could affect the effective date, making the date far off into the future, which they do a lot, or blanking out the appropriation. But whatever changes that they make, we have to remember that the bill must conform to the title. If the bill is changed, it gets a new draft number, an HD or an SD. HD is the House draft and SD is the Senate draft. And then you'll see the change listed on the bill status page. So this is the bill status page. Here you can see everything about a bill. As the bill changes, the description will change. Um, you can see the status of the bill, the introducer, the referrals. If there's a companion bill, you see the companion listed, the different versions of the bill. The committee reports are very handy to take a look at because you can see the discussion. If there's any changes in the bill, the changes will be listed in the committee report. You can look at all the testimony on the testimony links. You see the hearing notices and the agendas, and also you can look at the hearing and go watch the hearing off of the YouTube link. So a very good place to go to get all the information on any particular bill. Okay, second reading happens usually after a bill leaves its first committee. It's the second of the three required votes. If you're after second reading, a bill goes to its next committee. Again, it's the same process. You call the chair of that next committee to have the bill scheduled. If it gets scheduled for a hearing, you testify, making sure that you address any changes in the bill. You have to tailor your testimony to make sure that your testimony reflects the new version of the bill, and just repeat as often as necessary. Okay, third reading happens after a bill has gone through all of the committees in a chamber. It's the last of the three required votes in the chamber, and this is where a lot of the discussion happens, usually in the House. Okay, then the bill gets to the crossover point, and this is after, for bills that made it through the House process and bills that made it through the Senate process. Because it's a bicameral legislature, they have to cross over and go to the opposite chamber, and then we go through the same process all over again, but now in the opposite chamber. So as you can see, the House bills went over to the Senate, Senate bills went over to the House. By this point, a good portion of the bills are dead. I got to take a look to see as far as like how many bills are left at this point. But the majority of bills have died at this point. Session moves even faster after the crossover. And then bills must get through their non-originating chamber by second crossover. If a bill moves past, makes it past second crossover, there may be multiple drafts that exist. And so it's kind of it's a lot of work at this point. Legislators are tired, staff's tired, but you got to get through. This is part of the legislative session. For bills that have made it through both chambers but have different drafts, then you get to the conference committees. And conference committees are for bills that have both a House and Senate draft. House and Senate leadership appoint members to conference committees, and they're required to work out agreements between a House draft and a Senate draft. The chairs and members of these conference committees are the chairs and members of the committees that it went through as part of the process. And so they try to find agreement um, so that they could move the bill out of the legislature. At this point, there's no testimony. The public can attend conference hearings, but there's usually, um, well, there's not usually, there's no testimony, but the public can still talk to legislators via email. You can call legislators' offices. You can talk to them at the Capitol to try to, get them to, um, you know, keep things in the bill, or keep this in the bill, or but you can't testify. There's no testimony. This is the time for legislators to work out the agreement by themselves. Um, and so for bills that go through this process, there's like this just comes at the end of session where maybe there's like a week or two for legislators to work out the differences between the House draft and the Senate draft. Very busy time at the Capitol. This is probably the most frustrating time for advocates. There's a lot of discussion at this point, but we have to get through this last part before we get to the end of session. So for conference meeting, there's rules. There's, for bills that make it this part, there's no guarantee that conferees will be appointed. And if conferees are not appointed, then they can't have meetings. Again, there's no public testimony. Conference rules are set up by House and Senate leadership, and usually only the conference chairs can talk. If a bill has money referrals to Fin and WAM, the conference chairs before voting on it needs approval from those committees before they can vote, and any final version needs to be reported out by the final decking deadline. Okay, again, an opportunity to talk to the conferees and any other legislators that you have developed relationship with to ask them to keep something in a bill or to take something out of a bill, as long as it was discussed as part of the hearings in other committees. That's something that they could still keep in a bill or take out of a bill. They just can't deal with any new language. And then we get to final reading. For bills that come out of conference with the conference draft one, those bills go to each chamber independently, and each chamber needs to vote the bill out of that chamber before it can pass the legislature. So if one chamber votes yes on a CD and the other chamber votes no, then the bill fails. They both need to vote yes on the conference draft for it to get out of the legislature. And they need to do this before the end of session. Um, and then, yeah, so that's the process. And for bills that get out of the legislature, they go up to the governor, and then you have an opportunity to let the governor know how you feel. If you don't succeed, don't give up. For the majority of bills haven't made it. I think only about 8 to 12% of bills on average make it. And so sometimes it takes a lot of time for bills to get traction. And ideas get sent back to the legislature year after year. So you have to work hard and be patient. I know it's not always easy, but if it's the right time, your bill may get passed. You just have to get ready for next year's session. And then before you know it, it'll be the third Wednesday in January, and the whole process begins all over again. We talked about Hawaii having a bicameral legislature. We also have a biennial legislature, meaning it's a legislature with a 2-year cycle, always starting in an odd numbered year and ending in an even numbered year. So this 2026 session is the back end of our 2-year cycle. And so any bill that dies this year is completely dead. And then we get into the election portion in November, and then we start the 2-year cycle all over again in 2027. I guess I'm ahead of my slides. Sorry. Okay, so if you're confused, don't worry. The public access room is always here to help. Okay, about the public access room, we are a nonpartisan legislative service agency that belongs to the Legislative Reference Bureau. We're taxpayer funded, so there's never any fee for any of our services. We have lots of resources, guidance on the process, workspace in our office. We have public computers. With internet, we have a public copier, so we can make copies of testimony and communication to your legislators. Lots and lots of helpful handouts and material that we create. We have a website, lrb.hawaii.gov/par. We have workshops and tutorials that are available on our YouTube page. We create lots of infographics on our Instagram. And so we are set up to help enhance the public's ability to enhance the legislative process, well, to help enhance the legislative process for the public. This is what our website looks like. And under the Learn page, we do have a website advocates guide, not the website. We do have an advocates guide on our website that we just created, after a couple years. And so this is a really good handout to provide an overview of the legislature and actions that the public can take in getting involved. And so this is new. This is available on our website. So hopefully you guys can check it out. And the current legislature page is where we have a lot of session handy information and links to info sheets that we have hard copies um, available in our office, but we have digital copies available on our website. These are the types of infographics we have available. Um, and on the upper right portion, those are some infographics that we have posted on our Instagram page. So yeah, we answer calls, answer questions via email, and answer questions via phone or live in person. So always eager and ready to help. And so, yeah, so please call us, visit us, email us. And these are a couple of our upcoming website. I'm not an upcoming website, upcoming workshops. The calendar one is next week, and then Andy's doing the Getting to Know the Legislature's website, which is new. The website has a new search feature, and I'm still actually getting to know that too. So, but yeah, attend the next two presentations, and again, we'll be happy to assist you during the year. So, with that, that's the end of the presentation. This is our phone number, our email address, our social media links, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. Stop sharing.
Thank you, Keanu. While people are thinking to see if they have questions, we had a couple questions come in. One was from the chat was that sometimes I think Department of Health hears complaints from people with disabilities who encounter barriers like an ASL interpreter that's not visible or screens that maybe mean somebody has to have their back to the committee. They asked who they should direct any complaints to. And I want to say that on hearing notices, there's often a sentence there about if you have any accessibility requests to contact the individual committee hearing staff. And the public access room can help you find that. Keanu, is it correct that also the clerk's offices might be able to provide help on bigger issues, more consistent issues, as opposed to just about one hearing?
Yeah, I would contact the clerk's offices in the House and Senate for that. Yeah,
And then
overall.
Elite, thank
Huh?
you.
Yeah,
And the next, go ahead.
yeah, no, the clerk's offices schedule the interpreters, so I think that's a good place to call, so that they should know about those issues for sure.
And then Elise asked about bills if they're passed with simple majority. Bills are, but
Hmm.
constitutional amendments would need two-thirds.
Two-thirds. Yeah.
Yep. Another question was about co-sponsors and if it's possible to get co-sponsors if a bill is pre-filed already.
Yeah.
Can co-sponsors
Well,
be
once it's
added?
pre-filed, yeah, no, once it's pre-filed, they can't people can't sign off of a bill once it's filed.
And
So
so the best time, if you're looking for co-sponsors, would be to be doing that now, advocating for that
yeah,
now, and
before they
working with.
file, yeah, because once they file it, they can't they can't sign on to it after it's already been filed.
And then somebody, Elise also had a question clarifying, and I put this in the chat already, that readings and votes are the same thing when we're talking about the chamber readings or the chamber votes.
Yeah. And just to clarify why they call it readings is because they read the bill by title on the floor. So it's an actual floor vote, but they call it reading because they may say, um, Bill 82 relating to water. So that's why it's a reading, but it's an actual vote on the floor.
Does anybody else have any questions they want to jump in with? I also have one, just to clarify that bills can roll over, can carry over into this year. They won't change bill numbers. They'll keep the bill number from 2025, but legislators could also opt to reintroduce a bill, especially if they want to change the language to address concerns that may have been brought up last year. Any questions out there? Anything that I missed from the chat?
If you guys have questions that come up later, please feel free to call us. It's early on in session. There's going to be a lot of questions that come up, and we're ready to answer. There's me and Andy, and then Lacey and Janine are also in our office. So yeah, feel free to call us, and don't feel bad. Some people call us and say I'm sorry, and don't feel sorry. We're getting paid to answer these questions and to be here. So um, please use us as a resource so we're not bored. We're happy to answer your questions.
And we do plan to do another budget workshop later in the session once more of the information is out there, but that is on our agenda. All right, we'll stay on the call for another minute or two just in case anybody has a question, but thank you all for attending.
Yeah, thanks everybody, and yeah, please sign up for the calendar and deadlines one next year. I mean next look. I'm already thinking about next year already, guys. Sorry. But that will be super helpful for everybody that doesn't understand the calendar.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Yeah, and I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I think you need to.
Uh, Stop sharing. Where's that thing? Oh, stop share. Stop. Where's the recording button? You're muted, Andy.
Should be in that row where it says like participants chat react. If you don't see it, I think we can just leave the meeting and it'll stop the
Wait, wait,
recording.
wait, wait. Ask me. Chat. Card. I got it.
I didn't answer it and see if it's easy.